Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Kami dari kelompok 2 akan mempresentasikan proposal-proposal dengan topik yang sudah kita pilih. Untuk pertanyaan pertama, ada saya sendiri, Muhammad Alif. Jadi, kita langsung masuk ke topik saja. Topik yang akan saya paparkan di sini adalah tentang the role of English language in the globalized workforce, developing the foundation for interest in learning English in Indonesian education. Next slide, please. Here are the contents regarding my proposal. First is introduction, second is supporting theories, third is methodology, fourth is finding and discussion, and five is the conclusion. Next. Introduction. Indonesia faces significant obstacle in providing quality English education, especially in rural areas with limited resources. Despite policy mandates, implementation challenges persist, creating a gap between educational ideals and realities. These challenges intersect with HR management, as English proficiency is crucial for global competitiveness. Human Research Department prioritizes candidates with strong English skills, while with the lack of proficiency hampers talent acquisition and cross-cultural collaboration, hindering organizational growth. Next. Here are the supporting theories for my proposal. First is social cultural theory. Student language acquisition and proficiency are intricately influenced by their use of social interaction, cultural belief, and the broader socioeconomic context in which they are situated. In resource theory, we delve into the nuanced implication of resource theory in the Indonesian education landscape, shedding light on the disparities in resource allocation and their far-reaching consequences. In critical pedagogy, we serve as a transformative framework for education, advocating for the examination of power dynamics and the promotion of social justice within educational system. There's also motivation theory, which provide valuable insight into the multi-layered nature of human behaviors and the factors that drive individuals to engage in certain activities. There's also cultural linguistics, which is offer an intensive framework that emphasizes the intricate relationship between language and culture, highlighting the importance of preserving linguistic diversity while promoting proficiency in global languages such as English. Next. Here are the methodologies used in building this proposal. First, we have the territory review. This review will focus on culturally diverse contexts similar to Indonesia, aiming to identify evidence-based strategies, theoretical frameworks, and best practices. We also do comparative analysis. This analysis will identify successful initiatives and approaches that has been implemented in diverse cultural settings, assessing their applicability to the Indonesian context. We do also need assessment, which conducted to identify the specific challenges and requirement of different regions and communities within Indonesia regarding English language education. We also do knowledge sharing and dissemination. This dissemination aims to foster collaboration and knowledge exchange among stakeholders, catalyzing broader systemic changes and policy reforms in English language education. Next. So here are our finding and discussion that we're gonna uh, explain more in this topic. So after doing all the methodology and stuff and cross the examination with the methodology that we used, we come to find some of the topic that we know brought upon. So first, we have limited access to quality English education. In many parts of Indonesia, particularly rural and remote areas, access to quality English education is severely limited. This issue stems from various factors, including a shortage of qualified English teacher, inadequate initial resources, and a lack of infrastructure. One key issue is the shortage of qualified English teachers in remote areas, in which many skilled educators prefer to work in urban centers where infrastructure and amenities are more readily available, leaving rural schools understaffed and unable to meet the demands and for English instruction. As a result, students in this area often receive subpar education due to the lack of expertise and restoration. To address these challenges, innovative approaches and strategic intervention are needed to ensure equitable access to quality English education in rural and remote areas of Indonesia. One potential solution is the implementation of mobile learning platforms and virtual classrooms, which can overcome geographical barriers and provide students with access to for interactive lessons, multimedia resources, and real-time communication with teachers, enhancing the learning experience for the students. Second, we have inadequate resources and infrastructure. The insufficient resources and infrastructure in school further exacerbate the challenge in English language education. Outdated textbooks and limited educational materials pose significant obstacle to effective language instruction. Many schools in Indonesia rely on textbooks that may not affect current linguistic trends or teaching methodologies. As language evolve and new pedagogical approaches emerge, outdated materials become increasingly obsolete and failing to engage students or adequately address their learning needs. Addressing this challenge requires a multifaceted approach. Investing in teacher training program is essential to enhance educators' pedagogical skill and instructional methods. By providing teachers with opportunities for professional development and ongoing support, school can equip them with the tools and strategies needed to deliver effective English language instruction. Next, we have cultural and linguistic diversity. Indonesia's rich cultural and linguistic diversity presents both opportunities and challenges in English language education. Balancing the promotion of English proficiency with the preservation of local language and cultures is essential for fostering inclusivity and cultural appreciation. One key aspect of addressing this challenge is integrating local language and cultural content into English language instruction. By incorporating elements of local culture, folklore, and tradition into English lesson, educators can create a more meaningful, engaging, and learning experience for students. This approach not only enhances students' understanding of their own cultural identity, but also fosters a sense of pride and appreciation for Indonesian diverse heritage. Fourth is low motivation and interest. Student lack of motivation to learn English can be attributed to various factors, including perceived irrelevance to their daily lives and limited exposure to practical application of the language. Low motivation and interest in learning English among students in Indonesia presents significant challenge to effective language education. Addressing this issue requires a multifaceted approach that seeks to enhance student engagement, relevance, and perceived value of English language proficiency. By offering extracurricular activities and cultural exchange program, it can broaden student exposure to English language and culture, thereby fostering greater motivation and interest. Extracurricular activities such as English clubs, debate teams, and drama production provide students with opportunities to practice English in a much more fun and interactive setting outside of the classroom. Cultural exchange program, however, facilitate interaction with native English speakers and exposure to different cultural perspectives will enhance student motivation to learn the language. Next slide, please. Fifth, we have the economic disparities. Economic disparities between urban and rural areas contribute to inequalities in access to quality English education. The limited funding and resources available in rural communities exacerbates inequalities and marginalize students from underserved areas. To address this challenge effectively, targeted intervention are needed to improve infrastructure, attract qualified teachers, and provide additional support to schools in disadvantaged communities. Establishing partnership with private sector organizations will provide available support and resources to schools in disadvantaged communities. Private companies can contribute funding, expertise, and technical assistance to support educational initiatives and infrastructure development projects in rural areas. Corporate social responsibility program, philanthropic partnership, and employee with volunteer initiative can provide schools with access to additional resources such as educational technology, teacher training programs, and extracurricular activities. Next, we have globalization challenges. Rapid changes in the global workforce demand adaptability and proficiency in English language skills. However, the education system may struggle to keep pace with evolving job requirements and linguistic trends. The rapid pace of globalization presents significant challenges for the Indonesian education system, particularly in ensuring that students are equipped with the English language skill necessary to thrive in the global workshop. Integrating language proficiency standard into the curriculum is essential to ensure the students are adequately prepared for emerging job roles in a globalized economy. By establishing clear benchmark for English language proficiency, educators can design instruction that targets the specific skills needed for success in various industries and sectors. This may involve incorporating language proficiency assessment, such as the Common European Framework of Reference for Language (GIFR), into the curriculum to measure student proficiency levels and track their progress over time. Last but not least, we have conformant fluency and support. Government policies and support play a crucial role in shaping the effectiveness of language education initiative. Adequate funding, comprehensive language education policies, and targeted intervention are essential for the success of English language teaching program. Promoting comprehensive language education policies that prioritize English language proficiency and cultural diversity is a crucial first step in addressing for initiative. These policies should outline clear objectives, standards, and benchmarks for English language learning, as well as strategies for promoting cultural diversity and inclusivity within the curriculum. By establishing a coherent policy framework, the government can provide a guidance and direction to educators, administrators, and other stakeholders involved in language education. Next slide. So we can conclude that this discussion from these studies will shed light on the multifaceted challenges and opportunities within English language education in Indonesia. Through a comprehensive methodology encompassing literature review, comparative analysis, need assessment, and knowledge dissemination, key insights have been gleaned to inform the development of effective intervention. Inadequate resources, limited infrastructure, and disparities in teacher capacity emerge as significant barriers hindering English language education in Indonesia. Addressing these challenges requires targeted investment, policy reforms, and collaborative effort to ensure equitable access to quality education for all students, regardless of their socioeconomic background or geographic location. In conclusion, the journey towards improving English language education in Indonesia requires a collective commitment to address research priorities, celebrate cultural diversity, and empower students with the linguistic skill needed to succeed in an increasingly interconnected world through collaborative effort and sustained investment. Indonesia can pave the way for a brighter future while all students have the opportunity to thrive and contribute to global dialogue and innovation. Thank you. Next. All right. That's all the There's all the presentation for my proposal. Next, we have Gita. For Gita, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Where is my slide? Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gita Nurpala, and here I would like to present my paper here. And the title is Comic Strips as an English Teaching Media for Junior High School and the Impact on Their Reading Skills. Next slide, please. And the background study is reading. Probably we know that reading is a window to knowledge. Through the reading, students can access informational content that match with within educational material itself. And reading habits are equal to the country's advancement because when the student is willing to read, and it will develop their reading skills and so on. Junior high school students often face challenges developing proficient in reading skills in English learning due to the traditional teaching methods and lack of tailored resources and disengagement. And due to the issues mentioned, students have no interest in reading, especially in English materials. The consequence is the study is prioritized to create of the comic strips to enhance the students' enjoyment of the learning process. Next slide, please. The identification of the problem is the primary problem identified in this research is the lack of interest and engagement among junior high school in reading English materials. The factors contributing to these issues include a less supportive school environment, inadequate library resources, challenges in teaching to present the materials, family influences, and the last one is students' lack of motivation. And writers is as the writer is still often find traditional teaching methods in the surrounding may not be effectively because the engage of the student in reading activities and leading teacher to challenges in presenting the reading material itself. And another issues is from lack motivations of the students as they demonstrate minimal interest in teaching and learning activities, and it is often to engage inside of conversation during the class reading session. The next slide, please. And the limitation of the problems is because the time, budget, and manpower availability to the research to address the issues outlined. The research problem is limited to the only comic strip as an English media teaching for junior high school and the impact of their reading skills. Next slide, please. The questions of the research is there are only two. The first one is how are comic strips utilized to educate reading skills in junior high school? And the second one is what is the benefit and impact of utilizing the online comic strip to educate the reading skills among junior high school? Next slide. The objective research is to examine this method and approach used in utilizing comic strips to educate reading skill among junior high school and to assess the benefit of utilizing the comic strips to educate the reading skills in junior high school, including their effect on student engagement, comprehension, and the overall reading proficiency. Next slide. And the significance of the research is there are only two for the teacher and the student itself. And for the teacher, it is only to bridging the gap between theory and practice in English education by investigating the effectiveness of online comic strips. And the student is to enhance the reading interest, comprehension, and even the critical thinking abilities and of components of the language acquisition. Next slide. Methodology, I use the two of this methodology. The first one is quantitative, and uh, the first one is pre-test and post-test between the uh, before and after using the comic. The second one is using the statistical analysis to compare mean scores before and after use the comic. The last one is about qualitative method, and it is between interview with the researchers between the student and questionnaire between to get students' opinion and before and after the research. Next slide. And this is the findings on what I have what I've found in the research. The picture one is describing according to the outcomes derived from the first questionnaire. It shows that the integration of the comic strip into English language education is significantly increased student motivation and engagement in reading activities. And in the picture one, by using the comic strips, uh, it is potentially augment students to interest in reading. Based on the results, the first question suggests that the comic strip based reading materials can serve as a viable solution for teachers in addressing the issues of student apathy toward the reading in classroom. The picture two is the respondent also testified the comic strips provide visually stimulating in content that positively impact student interest and comprehension. Um, with combining the text and illustration, it can be facilitates the quicker comprehension of materials and enhance student memory retention. Next slide, please. The third is this assertion supported by the presence of respondent. They choose strongly agree 2% and agree with 5%. The incorporation of visual elements that enhance student understanding in a narrative and foster heightened interest in English reading skills. These visuals in comic strips capture students' attention and make the reading more visually appealing. Oh, and fourth, the fourth picture is it stated that the visual cues provided by comic strips serve as contextual cues that assist students in illustration and convey additional information that complements in the written text. Consequently, there was unnecessary to provide reading materials that could stimulate their interest, such as comic, and this probably can be the best reading materials to assess their reading skills. Next, please. According to the picture 5, the respondent collected participants also expressed that belief in comic strips could contribute enhancement of their English vocabulary proficiency. And the comics can be described as a sequence to propose visual element, text, and arranged deliberately to convey information, elicit an aesthetic response from the audience itself. And by using the comic strips as reading media, also can help students to analyze and interpreting comic strips require students to make inferences, concluding and analyze visual and textual elements. Next slide, please. And here are the conclusion. All in all, this study illuminates the promising role of comic strips as transformative tools in fostering English reading skills among the junior high school students. Despite the prevailing challenges, such as inadequate school support, familiar indifference toward the literacy, the integration of the comic into educational practice emerged as compelling strategy to reignite student passion for reading. And drawing upon the foundational educational theories, the research also effectively demonstrates how the comics serve as conduits for cognitive engagement, social learning, and cultural historical understanding within the language acquisition itself. I guess that's all from me. I will get back to the director.
Thank you, Kit, for the presentation. Next, we'll have the presentation for Hilip. Kyoto, time is yours.
Wait.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Uh, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ratul Amana. In here, I would like to present the overcoming psychological barriers to speaking English to among Indonesian students. All right, so on today, I would like to explain more about the introduction, problem, literary review, theoretical framework, objectives, hypothesis, methodology, finding and discussion, conclusion, recommendations, and the rest is references. Next slide. Okay. So in Indonesia, there's a big challenge in teaching English effectively because many students are scared to speak the language. They're not just afraid of making mistakes, they're also worried about being judged or embarrassed in front of others. This fear is a big problem because in many schools, learning English involves a lot of memorization rather than practicing speaking. This makes students even more nervous and less confident about using English in real conversation. Okay, I want you to imagine being a student again. Picture yourself in a classroom where every time you try to speak a new language, you're worried about making mistakes or being judged by your peers and teachers. It's not just about the fear of errors, but about the fear of embarrassment that comes with those errors. This fear is a significant barrier to effective language learning. Many schools in Indonesia emphasize memorization over practical usage, which means students often lack the confidence to use English in real life conversations. This educational approach contributes to their anxiety and reluctance to speak English. Next slide. Okay, so there are problems. Moreover, there's a pervasive societal pressure to speak English perfectly. The unrealistic expectation creates a cycle of silence and missed opportunities for genuine language development. Students are discouraged from speaking because they fear they won't meet these high standards. Anxiety affects not only student motivation and confidence, but also their overall ability to communicate effectively. When students are anxious about their academic performance and language development are significantly compromised. As we move forward, we'll delve deeper into the psychological, instructional, and situational factors contributing to this anxiety. We will explore how traditional teaching methods may exacerbate these fears and discuss innovative strategies that can transform the English language learning experience in Indonesia. Next slide. Yeah, I encourage you all to think about your own experience with learning a new language. Reflect on what made you feel anxious, and what helped you overcome these fears. Next slide. So, having understood the challenges faced by Indonesian students in speaking English, uh, overcoming these barriers, this will help us build a foundation for the strategies we can employ to improve English language teaching. For the first one is in this section of our discussion, we dive into what other researchers and educators have discovered about the anxieties of language learners. We'll look at the sources of this anxiety and explore various solutions that have been proposed in the literature. Uh, for the first one, we discussed psychological barriers. Many students struggle with anxiety and low self-esteem, which can make speaking in new language very intimidating. This fear can prevent them from even trying to speak. Studies suggest that supportive environments that encourage trying and making mistakes can help reduce this anxiety. Next, we examine socio-cultural influences. Expectations from society and cultural norms can place a lot of pressure on learners. For example, if there is a high value placed on speaking English flawlessly, students may feel discouraged about from speaking at all unless they can do it perfectly. Researchers have found that changing these cultural expectations to value progress over perfection can help learners feel more comfortable. Next slide. Regarding teaching methods, the research highlights several effective strategies. These include interactive and communicative teaching methods that focus on more using the language than memorizing it. The techniques that encourage participation and conversation can help build confidence and reduce the fear of speaking. And finally, we look at how technology can help. Tools like AI bots and web-based platform offer students a safe space to practice speaking without the immediate fear of judgment. These technologies can provide personalized feedback and make learning more engaging and less stressful. Next. Okay, with a clear understanding of what the literature tells us, let's connect these ideas to a broader theoretical framework that can guide our teaching practice. In this part, we discuss the thinking theories that explain why students experience speaking anxiety and how we can address it effectively. Speaking anxiety of is complex and influenced by a cognitive, affective, and performance factors. This means that students might feel anxious because they are not prepared, they fear negative evaluation, or they simply don't believe in their own ability to speak well. These insights come from various scholars who have studied the issue in depth. Experts like Mulyono and Kocha highlight the crucial role of educators in addressing these anxieties. They propose practical classroom strategies that focus on reducing anxiety and building confidence. For example, preparing students thoroughly, offering positive feedback, and setting realistic expectations can all help. Next. So our goals in addressing the issue of speaking anxiety among students are threefold. Each of these objectives is designed to tackle the problem from different angles, providing a holistic approach to the issue. The first one is objective, is to deeply understand the psychological barriers. What exactly makes students anxious about speaking English? By identifying these barriers, whether they are fear of making mistakes, fear of judgment, or lack of self-esteem, we can tailor our teaching methods to directly address and mitigate these fears. Our second objective is to develop and implement effective teaching strategies. This involves both pedagogical changes, how we teach, and technological enhancement, what the tools we can use to aid teaching. The aim is to find methods that not only reduce anxiety but also make learning more enjoyable and effective. Lastly, we aim to promote more practical use of language in classrooms. This means creating opportunities for students to speak English in safe, supporting environments. Regular practice is key to building confidence and fluency, and we want to encourage teachers to facilitate this practice as much as possible. Next. Okay. Uh, Based on our understanding of the barriers and the effectiveness of various strategies discussed in the literature, I have formulated a hypothesis that will be tested through our interventions. I hypothesized the speaking anxiety experienced by English as a foreign language learners can be significantly reduced through targeted interventions. These interventions are designed to enhance communicative confidence and improve the rapport between teachers and students. By focusing on these aspects, we expect to see reduction in anxiety. Additionally, I believe that by integrating more interactive and learner-centered activities into our teaching practice, we will not only decrease the level of speaking anxiety, but also see an improvement in overall speaking proficiency. This means moving away from rote learning and towards a more dynamic, engaging, and responsive educational experience. Next. Okay, for the methodology, I use qualitative method. Based on previous literature, this study used qualitative methods to understand the impact of various teaching strategies on reducing speaking anxiety. The data was collected and analyzed from articles and previous studies to gather comprehensive insights into effective educational practice. Next. In this research, I found that introducing more innovative speaking activities helps reduce speaking anxiety among students. What does this mean? It's about making speaking fun and engaging through creative activities. For example, storytelling and drama are not just about speaking, but also about expressing oneself with gestures and emotions. These activities encourage students to speak more freely and build confidence because they focus on creative and expression, not just correctness. This is great because it makes learning enjoyable and less intimidating. I believe that if teachers use these methods, students will start feeling more comfortable and less anxious about speaking English. And I discovered that the environment in which students learn to speak English greatly affects their anxiety levels. If the classroom is supportive and enjoyable, students are less anxious and more willing to participate. This means teachers need to create a welcoming atmosphere where students feel safe to make mistakes and learn from them. Positive feedback and encouragement are crucial. From this, a friendly environment not only lowers anxiety but also boosts students' motivation to learn and use English more often. It's important for teachers to keep the classroom atmosphere light and encouraging. And the third key finding from this study is about how gradually increasing the difficulty of speaking tasks can help build confidence over time. Starting with simple, less intimidating tasks allows students to gain confidence in their abilities. As they become more comfortable, I introduce slightly more challenging tasks to push their boundaries without overwhelming them. This gradual progression helps ensure the students don't feel thrown into the deep end too soon, which can spike anxiety. It's about getting them to improve step by step, ensuring they are ready to tackle more difficult speaking situations as they develop their skills. Next. So for this conclusion, considering all the findings and ideas, it's clear that language teachers have a critical role in managing and reducing foreign language speaking anxiety. They must incorporate innovative and varied strategies in their classrooms. This includes creating a supportive and encouraging environment, using engaging materials, and building strong relationships with and among students. These efforts are essential for improving both the learning experience and the academic outcomes of the students. Despite the limited scope of this study, it has shed some light on how educators can tackle the issue of speaking anxiety, though more research is needed to generalize these findings fully. Next. For the recommendations, continuing the use of engaging and interactive learning methods. It's crucial to incorporate tasks that involve students in active and enjoyable learning process. This not only aids in reducing anxiety but also enhances language acquisition skills. Also, providing students with specific, constructive feedback can help them see their progress and address areas of improvement in a supportive manner. This approach should be handled sensitively to ensure students feel encouraged rather than discouraged. Next. Yeah, I think that's all from me. I'll give it back to the moderator. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Hila, for the presentation. Next, to the next presenter, it's gonna be Hanan. For Hanan, time is you.
Okay, thank you, moderator. I'm Hana Salsabila. I'm gonna present this about the who has an access to education service and what can be done to guarantee that everyone receive high quality education. Next slide, please. So, seminar contents is introduction, literature reviews, working theories, methods, findings, discussions, and conclusions. The introduction of education is an important component in development and progress of nations, and education is a conscious effort to prepare students through guidance, teaching and/or training activities for their future interests. Individuals who excel and are be able to compete in their fields can be produced through quality educations. Education is one of the most important factors in the development of nations. To ensure the effectiveness of teaching and learning outcomes, all elements must be considered. An external influence can be play a significant roles in educational performance, and therefore, a good schools should prioritize schools quality because education is a locomotive about the critical in moving human life. Human resource, both good and bad, are influenced by their level of education. So for the literature review is the basic concepts of educational quality. A high quality education has the ability to produce superior and competitive individuals. Therefore, it's very important for every country to make efforts to improve the quality of its educations. Educations in Indonesia is one of the countries that still can faces obstacle in the education sectors. Many young people, especially in remote areas, still lack access to schools. Apart from that, the education system in Indonesia still needs improvements, especially in area of buildings and infrastructure, teacher competency and curriculum. The quality assurance involves the systematically review of educational provisions to maintain and improve its quality and equality and efficiency. And it composes that schools self-evaluation external evaluation are including inspection and the evaluation of teachers and school leaders and also the students' assessment. Next slide, please. For the supporting theories, there is a continuous improvement. A quality education is a dynamic process that requires ongoing reflections, evaluations, and improvement. Uh, by Idrus, is the Indonesian government is responsible for regulating the education system, which is the process of education the country's youngsters. And aside from that, education should be raise public awareness of their particular potential and encourage people to use that potential for human values. The second one is equitable access. This high quality education should be accessible to all students regardless of their socioeconomic background, geographic locations, gender, ethnicity, or disability status. Equity in education ensures that every student has the opportunity to achieve their full potential and receive the support they need to success. As Idris says, he says that according to the statement of the coordinating minister for human development and culture above, the government recognized that the importance of education is for ensuring the continuity of life as a nation and as a country. In these situations, the central and regional government aims to offer services and convenience while also ensuring that all citizens receive a decent education without prejudice. And the last one is individual support by the government state, the recognizing that students have diverse learning styles, abilities, and interesting. A quality education system provides individual support to help each student reach their academic goals. Next slide, please. The method by using a qualitative method with a case study type whereby conducting an in-depth exploration of program events, process, activity for one or more people, case study of who was the appropriate education and could guarantee that education which is bound by time and activity in detailed data collection using various data collection procedures and over continuous periods time. The qualitative case study methodology provides tools for researchers to study complex the phenomenon within their context, and when the approach is applied correctly, it becomes a valuable method for health science research to develop theory, evaluates programs, and develops interventions. This quality case study is an approach to research that facilitates exploration of a phenomenon within a context using variety of data research. This ensures that everyone can receive a high quality education, not to explore through one lens, but rather a variety of lens which allow for multiple facets of the phenomenon to be revealed and understood. Next slide, please. The finding is by understanding the background of these problems, the Indonesian government, education institutions, and society can take steps to improve the quality of education and ensure that all students have access to quality educations. Based on the method at selection of learning media use and intervention of English learning improve reading skills, there are following findings that effective teaching and learning is a quality education depends on effective teaching practice that foster critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, and collaboration among students. Second one is equitable access is a high quality education that should be accessible to all students regardless of their socioeconomic background, geographic locations, gender, ethnicity, or disability status. The equity in education ensures that every student has the opportunity to achieve their full potential and receive the supports that they need to succeed. And the mixed learning model is blend learning consists of a variety of the delivery options, including hybrid learning or dual learning, which is combines online and offline approaches. The final pedagogical practice is panelist, a questionnaire, all practice, as including exams and lecture and their relevance in the modern educational context. And the last one is micro credentials. Is micro credentials can include non-credit courses, short courses, and professional learning as well as industry education. Next slide, please. So based on the review in the previous chapter, is it discuss about the required standards to create quality education by the government laws on educations is a factor affecting education quality, education problems in Indonesia, and the quality of university in Indonesia in the international world. It states that measuring education's quality is not easy task because it is a difference from measuring the quality of the company's products or services, whose parameters these customer satisfactions. To make the education quality observable and measurable, we use international standard and even un- the uneven quality of educational facility and accessibility of this obstacle has a potential to disrupt an accessibility and quality of education received by children in Indonesia. Therefore, the government must continue apart from that, and the availability of the adequate facility and infrastructure is also important component in quality education. The national education facilities and infrastructure standards consist of 7 management activity, including planning, maintenance, and distribution of the educational facilities and infrastructure. One of these management's activities is called distribution, and the government is responsible for ensuring that educational institutions are equipped with the necessary facility and infrastructure to facilitate an organized and productive learning process. And through education, I hope everyone can gain the knowledge and skills needed to become more productive and independent as well, and to improve their life and the environment around them. This is the key for being able to encourage equitable development by having quality human research obtained from government education to carry out and being able to look up the condition of each region and its balanced manner. The government cannot work alone, and it must working on synergy from the central government to governments. There is also a cooperation with the surrounding community, supporting and assisting in effort to equalize access to education in Indonesia. Next slide, please. So the conclusion is, based on the discussions above, it can be concluded that the problems and the challenge of the world of education Indonesia are still very complex and require joint efforts from all parties. There are still many problems such as inequality of access and uneven quality of education. This is less relevant to students' needs and the lack of skills taught in schools. And to overcome these problems, efforts are needed from the government, society, and educational institutes to carry out more effective educational reforms. The government must pay serious attention to improve the access of education and the quality of education in all regions of students in Indonesia. And meanwhile, yes, educational institutions must adopt curricula that are more relevant to students' needs and be able to teach the skills needed in this digital era. In this case, is the teacher must be also to equipped with adequate skills and knowledge to teach skill. And the community also needs to be actively involved in improving the quality of education by supporting government policies, as well as providing attentions and support to educational institutions in their environment. With joint efforts from all the parties, it's hoped that education in Indonesia can continue to develop and be able to produce quality human research to face global challenges in digital era. I think that's all from me. Thank you, and I give it back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. Next, let Ade present his proposal. For Ade, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, moderator, for giving me time to presentate. Is my voice clear?
Clear, Ade.
Yes.
Right now, I will present about cultivating cultural competence in English language teaching. So here's the overview regarding my PowerPoint. There are introduction, supporting theories, methodology, findings, discussions, and conclusion. So introduction. This PowerPoint will explain about the importance of cultural competence in ELT, its impact on language acquisition and cultural awareness, the symbiotic relationship between cultural competence and language acquisition, and finally, the practical strategies for cultivating cultural competence among students. So here are the supporting theories. The integration of cultural competence into English language teaching is supported by foundational principles in education, such as sociocultural theory, including cultural aspects in language lessons. Students get real experience talking with people from different cultures, which helps them learn language better. And next is intercultural communicative competence model. The ICC model, proposed by Michael Biram, highlights four important aspects for effective communication across cultures. The first one is knowledge, and then skills, attitude, and awareness. And also there are theory such as cultural learning theory, cultural learning theories like cultural schema theory and cultural adaptation theory highlight the importance of understanding and adapting to different cultures in learning process. Next is methodology. This section outlines the approach used to create practical strategies aimed at fostering cultural competence in English language teaching. There are literature review, explore existing research, theoretical frameworks, pedagogical approaches, and best practice related to integrating cultural competence into ELT. The second is teacher training. Organize teacher training workshops or professional development sessions aimed at enhancing educators' understanding and implementation of cultural competence in ELT. The last one is data analysis and synthesis. Synthesize findings to identify common themes, challenge, and successful practice in cultivating cultural competence in English language teaching. So next is findings. The first one is contextual relevance, real-life language exposure, helps students understand how language works in daily life, making learning more meaningful. Authentic language use provides students with contextually relevant language input, allowing them to understand how language functions in everyday interactions. These exposures help bridge the gap between classroom learning and real-life language use, making language learning more meaningful and applicable for students to live. The second one is cultural immersion. Students learn cultural norms and expressions through authentic materials, gaining insights into different cultural contexts. Authentic language use often involves exposure to cultural norms, expressions, and idiomatic language specific to different cultural contexts. By engaging with authentic materials from diverse cultural backgrounds, students not only learn language but also gain insights. The third one is language variation. Exposure to various language forms like accents and slang helps students communicate effectively with diverse speakers. Authentic language use expose students to various forms of language variation, including regional accents, dialects, slang, and colloquialisms. This exposure helps students develop flexible language skills that enable them to understand and communicate effectively with speakers from different linguistic backgrounds. And next is cultural contextualization in language learning. The first one is understanding language nuances. Exploring cultural context helps students understand the subtle meanings behind language usage, idiomatic, idiomatic, sorry, idiomatic expression and cultural references. Contextualization allows students to comprehend the intricate nuances and connotations of language. By exploring cultural context, students gain insights into how language is influenced by cultural norms, values, and customs. This understanding helps students decipher the subtle meanings behind idiomatic expression, metaphors, and cultural references, which are integral to effective communication in the target language. Next is cultural sensitivity. Cultural contextualization fosters cultural sensitivity among students by raising awareness of cultural differences and norms. Students often recognize that language usage is deeply rooted in cultural practice and belief. This awareness promotes intercultural understanding and enhances students' ability to communicate respectfully and appropriately with speakers from different cultural backgrounds. And the last one is effective communication. Contextualization instruction enables students to communicate more effectively by interpreting cultural cues and nuances in real life situation. Uh, they learn not only how to use language grammatically and lexically, but also how to interpret and respond to cultural nuances and cues. This also enables students to engage in meaningful interactions, express themselves accurately, and convey intended messages with clarity and cultural sensitivity. And next is strategies for cultivating cultural competence in ELT. Use culturally relevant materials, including authentic resources like literature and music diverse cultures to enrich students' understanding. Number two is promote intercultural exchange. Organize events where students share their cultural backgrounds, fostering mutual understanding. Next one is develop communication skills. Practice cross-cultural communication through role plays and collaborative activities. And the last is address stereotypes. Discuss cultural biases to raise awareness and encourage critical thinking. And next is strategies for cultivating cultural competence in ELT. The first one is explore cultural topics, integrate cultural themes into lessons to provide context and relevance. The second one is foster empathy, encourage perspective taking by exploring different cultural viewpoints. And the last is provide real life opportunities, encourage participation in cultural events and language exchange program outside the classrooms for authentic experiences. And we jump into the conclusion right now. So in conclusion, cultivating cultural competence in English language teaching is essential for promoting understanding, empathy, and respect for cultural diversity among students. By employing strategies such as using culturally relevant materials, facilitating intercultural exchange, and developing cross-cultural communication skill, teachers can enhance language learning while fostering a deeper appreciation for diverse cultures. Through these efforts, students become better equipped to communicate effectively in multicultural settings and navigate the complexities of our interconnected world. I think that's it for me, and I'll give it back to the moderator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ati. After now that the proposal presentation all of us has finished, time to go into the Q&A station. For people that want to ask about the proposal, raise your hand and ask away. Thank you. Good, Roshan, if you want to ask a question. Okay, if no one wants to ask question, let me ask it first then. So my question is for Kita. So based on your proposal, I want to ask just how can exactly the integration of comic strip as a teaching tools enhance junior high school students' reading skills and overall engagement in the English learning process itself? I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alif. I would like to answer immediately of your question. The integration of comic strip as teaching tool in junior high school education has shown the promising result in enhancing students' reading skills and overall engagement. By utilizing the comic strips, educators can provide a visual aid that makes content or the reading passage is more uh, comprehensible and engaging to the students to for leading for better comprehensions of the material itself. And the research has indicated that the collaboration of the between visual and materials visual and text in comic strips can help students to understand the text meaning more efficiently and thereby improving their reading skills. And moreover, the analyzing and interpreting the comic strips can promote the critical thinking skills among the students through the comic itself, and students are encouraged to make inferences, drawing conclusion, and which can transfer to others reading tasks and enhance their reading, critical thinking abilities. And the visually stimulating of nature of the comic itself can increase students' interest in reading, leading to improve the motivation and participation in reading activities. Furthermore, the use of comic strips as teaching tool can foster cognitive engagement, social learning, and understanding within the language acquisition by reading some new vocabulary or how the illustrator describe the sentences on the passage by drawing some picture. This approach not only to enhance students' reading abilities, but also to promote critical thinking awareness and engage students effectively during the reading materials. And integrating the comic strips also can significantly enhance student reading skills to contribute more engaging, effective in English language learning experiences in junior high school. And lastly, it just to promote to help students to have um unique reading skills. I guess that's all.
Okay, thank you for the answer. I understand the point of your answer. Okay. Next, anyone wants to raise hand to answer the question, someone? Please. Okay, Gita. Uh, ask your question.
I would like to ask Helia regarding to her presentation. The poor speaking skills contribute directly to increase anxiety because student lack of confidence in their ability to communicate effectively. So in that way, language can courses be structured to progressively build speaking skills and confidence seamlessly. In what way? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gita. I would like to ask your question. So your question is like, in what ways can language courses be structured to progressively build speaking skills and confidence simultaneously, right? So the answer is language courses should start with basic, simple speaking activities and gradually increase in complexity. um, Teachers should integrate speaking practices in every class and use real life scenarios that encourage students to use English naturally and confidently. Is it clear enough, Gita?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay, thank you for the question and answer. What's your next one? Is there any more question? Please ask away. Ian? Okay, Hilya, ask away.
Okay, thank you, moderator. So I would like to ask to Hanan. So my question is, how can you equitable funding contribute to ensuring high quality education for all? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hilia, for the questions. So the equitable funding ensures that schools in all areas receive adequate research regardless of socioeconomic status and enabling them to provide a quality education. It includes well-equipped facilities, qualified teachers, and access to modern learning tools. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ilya. I give it back to the moderator, please.
Okay, thank you, Hanan. Anyone got more question? Please ask away. Okay, Hanan, time is yours. Ask your question.
So I would like to ask Ade Imansyah, how can real-life language exposure help students understand how language work in a daily life?
Okay, so real-life language exposure is invaluable for helping students understand how language works in daily life for several reasons. Real-life language exposure provides students with authentic context in which language is used. This allows them to see how language functions in different situations, such as casual conversation, formal presentations, or written communications like emails or text. This also can help fostering a deeper understanding of how language works in daily life. Is that clear?
Clear, Ade. Thank you.
Okay, I'll give it back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you, then Hanan. Okay, we have time for one more question. So if you have any question, please ask now. Thank you. Okay, then time is yours.
Okay, so my questions to Alif is, how can educators in Indonesia cultivate an intrinsic interest in learning English among students? ensuring they develop strong foundation in the language to thrive in the globalization or workforce. That's
Okay.
my question.
All right. So it's basically to cultivate the intrinsic interest. Yes. Okay. Uh, so to cultivate intrinsic interest in learning English among students itself, for more global or workforce readiness, I think educators can focus on the relevance of the English itself and the engagement using interactive method like group discussion and stuff like that. There's also cultural exposure, maybe technological integration, which incorporate digital tools and language app to enhance the accessibility and engagement itself. More now is the project-based learning, which will engage student in real-life project to develop language skill and much more problem-solving abilities. There's also recognition in order to celebrate the language milestone to boost their confidence and motivation. Um, there also community involvement, which can encourage participation for students in English speaking club and activities for undergraduate practice. I think that's all for me. Is this clear, Adi? Is this clear, Adi?
Okay, thank you. That's clear explanation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's all for our presentation of our proposal from our group two. Thank you and goodbye. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.